Okay, I wanted to go over again. I wanted to continue what we learned yesterday, and then I wanted to start a little bit on Chanukah. So, what's with our good friend Yaakov the mayor?
What happened? We had one there.
Huh?
What happened?
Has he been,
I don't know. I wasn't here Sunday.
let's see, about Halacha over here.
Yeah, right. Oh, I could guess.
Okay. Yeah, please, nice to meet you, sir. Wondering where he was. Okay. So I wanted to just continue what we learning last week because I thought it was very like knowledge of a Muslim, of a concept in halacha that the Alter Rebbe was really just breaking it down there on which sometimes we hear these words. Today I was learning in the Mimer like Torah the Torah was given with the klal and the prat, which I could translate it, but what exactly does it mean? What does the rule mean? That it was given with klal. My brother Rabbi uses it that when there's every aspect of Torah, maybe this is it. I'm just thank you for the opportunity. I'm working it out loud. Maybe the thing is that there's every single general object or object in the sense of a concept. Everything has its general definition, what it is. It's I don't know. Let's say it's It's in this Indian. It's milimata lamayla. The Maimer talking about from below to above. But within it, it also has everything. Has the whole spectrum of things. Right. So while itself it is a individual component, or it's a klal itself, which is defined by being something and not the other. This is the klal of. In general, we're going to learn now. We're learning nigla the Torah, right? Which is defined by being something that we're dealing with things. We're figuring out what we need to do. Which is we're dealing with like what the to-dos. Whereas Chassidus is dealing with the bechlali, the general. It's just dealing with godliness. It's not really so much of the what to do. There is still, nevertheless, within each of those, there's klal and prat, meaning within the klal, within the umbrella of the klal, there's the whole spectrum. So that means within nigla the Torah, there's the nister the Torah and the nigla the Torah. I do. See you too. So that I think that's what it is, and eventually each thing is given in a klal sense. It becomes the umbrella, the top of the pyramid. But within that klal, there's also a bunch of details. In every klal, there's a bunch of details, and within those details, there's also the whole spectrum, right? And I think that's what the rule is. So, and built on that rule, the Rebbe discusses how. Like we're discussing about nigla, how the revealed aspect of Torah has a hidden dimension to it, and the hidden dimension has a revealed aspect to it. Here we have another concept. The concept is bracha smucha l'chaverta, a bracha that is next to another bracha, right? And the most, I think the most basic familiarity we have it is that bracha smucha l'chaverta doesn't start with a baruch. We know from the second bracha of Kriyishma, in the morning and in the night. Doesn't start with bracha. After the first bracha does, bracha doesn't bring Yisroel, Yisroel Sakal, Amer, fine, and then Yetzer HaMa'iris, and then Ava, no, we use Ava, Avzel, B'Tz Yisrael, Amcha, Haftar Teinu, Mitzvah, right? So that's the second bracha. Avzel at night. So that's the basic rule. So here we're being done in brachas, Bracha Shachar, where we say Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Asher Kiddushanu Mitzvot Tzivanu Al Divrei Torah, or last second Torah we learned. And we want to know what's the deal with the next bracha, V'Harav. So everyone's like, oh, you need to put the vav. Why? You need to put the vav because it's not Because it is, and we'll see the Alter is going to break it down, because l'chayda, it's not its own bracha. It's not its own bracha. We're going to learn it inside. We'll see. Yisroel, there are those that say, says the Alter, we have to say that vav. There's an opinion that says we say with a vav. Why? Shebracha achasi imasher k'disha mitzvah k'tzivah. It is part of the bracha, part of al divrei Torah. Shehu matbeh aruch, peiseches mevarach, v'chesemes mevarach, v'ata Hashem hamlamet chulu. It's like Asher Yotzer. That's the way this opinion says. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher yotzer. Baruch atah Hashem refiach v'sar mafli l'asayis. That's the style of this bracha. So you have to put a vav. Conjunction, connecting. She'im haya matbea kotzer. Because if you're going to argue and say that no, al divrei Torah is its own bracha, matbea kotzer, meaning it's like the shakol b'dvar is the bracha. Then v'haravi bracha b'fnei atzmai hoyele liftech b'varach. And the argument is because if they were two separate brachas, then the v'harav should start with a baruch. So this question goes, what do you mean to start with a baruch? It's bracha smuchal chaverta. It's a bracha that follows another bracha. It follows the al divrei Torah, just like in Ma'ariv, Avos Olam follows Hamaydav Aravim. And we know bracha smuchal doesn't need a bracha. So how are they using that as a proof that it's not a matbea aruch? Right? This opinion is saying this is a bracha like Asher Yotzer. Why is it like Asher Yotzer? Because if it wasn't like Asher Yotzer, then the second bracha should start with a baruch. That's the proof. The fact that it doesn't start with a baruch, it starts b'hara, means it must be connected. You're going to tell me why does it have to start with a baruch? It's a bracha smuchal chaverta. It's a bracha that follows a preceding bracha, which doesn't have to start with a baruch. So just say, first bracha is al divrei Torah, second bracha is a haref. No problem. They say no. And then the Alter Rebbe brings that opinion that there's a qualification for bracha smuchal chaverta. When does a bracha that follows a bracha not need to start with baruch? So it's saying, when does the bracha that follows a bracha not need to start with baruch? Are you following me? When does the bracha that follows a bracha not need to start with baruch? When the bracha beforehand is matbea aruch. Matbea aruch and matbea katzur. Matbea aruch is it starts with a baruch and ends with a baruch. That is a long, what's maybe nusach, a long prayer, a long blessing, call it. But if the preceding blessing is a short blessing, then the bracha that follows needs to start with baruch. And in this case, says that this opinion, al divrei Torah is a matbea kotzer. So if a haref was its own bracha, then it would need to start with bracha. The fact that it doesn't shows that the whole thing is one matbea haref. Therefore, you have to put a vav to connect them.
What came first? Are these rules that were applied when they wrote these, or are these rules that they're trying to figure out what is already written?
I'm not sure I understand the question fully. You're saying
If you have this door, and now you can ask these questions and you can come up with an answer. Or while they're writing this, they're discussing.
This bracha, these brachas are Anshe Knesset Hagdola established, So I think it's more of an analyzing what the Anshe Knesset said, the correct way based on the framework, which we know from even before then, on how you understand bracha, smuch l'chaverta, which again is subject to change. So there's the framework, which is the back end of what the nusach of these brachas are. How, in what order were they developed? Probably there was a framework before they made the brachas. Whoever was making the brachas, they had this in mind. The question is, we don't know exactly what they had in mind. So there's a lot of
Maybe that's the question, exactly. In other words, is there like a rule of a concept we can derive, seeing from how they established it?
exactly. So you could go from the back up down, and you can go from the down up. You can go backward, you can back propagate, or you can look at it and say, well, these are the rules. Let's apply them. Or you could learn from the way that things happen, that, and the fact that this is this way, it means that the back end must be like this type of way. That this is how bracha smuch l'chaverta works. And here comes the proof. Birchas Havdalah. Pesachas bebarach. Achapi she'yismucha lebirchas haner v'abasamim. Oil day tzar. Says, here's your proof. It says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu b'yidei b'nei agafim ha'azana, b'yidei b'nei b'samim, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu malchalam, b'yidei me'edei ha'eish, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu malchalam, ma'avdel l'negel Yisrael. Why are you starting with Baruch atah Hashem ma'avdel l'negel Yisrael? Just start saying, Hamavdel l'negel Yisrael, Harev. It's a bracha smuch l'chaverta. Says this opinion, no. It's a bracha smuch l'chaverta that is follows of matbea kotzer, a short bracha. And in such a case, it begins with a baruch. And that's why Baharev, if it was an independent bracha, should have began with a baruch. And since it does not, it shows that it's one long bracha, and that's why we need to put a very good. Good. That's the that I would bring me the first opinion of the above. The Yeshiva says the Alter Shaharev I bracha b'fnei atzma. No, it's a second bracha. The brachas Havdalah. It is different than the brachas of Havdalah, right? Because we said Havdalah, it follows a short bracha, and it starts with baruch. That's the clearest example that if you have a bracha that's smuch l'chaverta, that's its own bracha, it should start with a baruch. So if you're saying harav is a bracha, its own bracha, why doesn't it start with baruch? Alter says apples and oranges, different story. The fisher brachas of the eines smuch l'olam l'brachas haner v'abasam. She'im roitzim mevarach al haner u'b'samim b'fnei atzma v'achar kach mavdel l'kais b'lener v'samim. Oh, okay. So Alter Rebbe gives another little knetch in the Bracha Smucha L'Chaverta drama. What is it? It's true that a bracha that follows a matbea kotzer would need when does a bracha that follows a short bracha need to start with a baruch? Until now we said all the time. If it's the second bracha that's following a short bracha, always needs a baruch. Deviating from the usual rule of bracha smuch l'chaverta doesn't start with baruch. No, that's only by a long bracha. The first bracha is a long one. First bracha is a short one. Doesn't need to start. This is Alter Rebbe. There are times also by short brachas that the second bracha does not start with the baruch. When is that? When they are always together. When they are mamish a set. When they're a set.
Ashrei.
Huh?
Well, the concept of Ashrei, which is really two lines. It's not necessarily in
What's
the
Ashrei?
Ashrei. but it's a set. It's the 2 lines of Asher. It's not necessarily.
Exactly, yeah, you could say that there, well, to contrast the Zalter Rebbe to Havdalah, which Beirei Moirei Eish and Beirei Minei B'Sam and Beirei Minei B'Sam and Beirei Eish can be done not next to Havdalah. If you go at night and you see Ha'esh, you do Ha'esh. If you do B'Sam, you see B'Sam, you do B'Sam. Has to do with, we learn about the giving, a geschmack to the neshama that's leaving after Shabbos. And then you can be maved, and you get a kos the next day. It's not necessarily that they're together. And because of that, the relationship that the one has to the other says, you still need to have your own bracha. You still need to start with your baruch. However, if you have a bracha that follows another bracha and does so, continue, it's never any other way. It's always al divrei Torah, v'ha'arev nav. Then, even though it's a matbei kotzer before, you'll still have to do. You don't have to then do a bar. You don't have to start the second bar. Alter Rebbe says in Birchas Torah itself, there's a we see the contrast in Birchas Torah itself because following the Barav we say that's why the third bracha, which is Asher Bacha Banu Mikol Amin Nasulanu, that we do start with a baruch. Hold on. It's a Smucha L'Chaverta. It's the third in the set. Asher Baruch Abanu should start without Baruch. So the Alter Rebbe says no, but because sometimes that bracha is read independently. When is it read independently?
When you go up for Navi,
Exactly. So that means this bracha is not exclusive over here. And because of that, if it's following a matbe'ah kotzer, which it is, then it also has to start with the bracha. That's already a little bit of an interesting thing. Is the question is the Alter Rebbe doing away with the whole toggle of matbe'ah kotzer and matbe'ah aruch? He's saying it has nothing to do with that matbe'ah kotzer and matbe'ah aruch. What it has to do is this about a set or not? Is this a bracha that is always together in this thing? And if it is, then the second one needs need not start with the baruch. Doesn't matter about the beginning being matbe'ah kotzer. It could be kotzer. It could be aruch. It seems like that's what the Alter Rebbe is doing. So in that sense, the key factor over here is, are they together or not, as opposed to what is the nature of the first bracha. The first opinion is looking at what is the first bracha. Oh, it's a short bracha. Okay, then the second bracha has to start with a baruch. That's what the first opinion says, and they say since it doesn't start with a baruch, it means that it's one long bracha. The second opinion says no, it doesn't have to start with it. It doesn't have anything to do with the nature of the first bracha. If it's a short one, it has to do with this is a set, and if it's a set and it's always read together, these two blessings are always the blessings are made together. Then it's a bracha Smucha L'Chaverta, and you don't have to start with a baruch, and therefore you don't need a vav. Says the Alter Rebbe, according to that opinion. Right? We see, and based on this rule that it has to be doing with are they been joining? Are they always together? We understand why Asher Baruch Banu does need a baruch. The question would be to the first opinion: why does Baruch Asher Baruch Banu need its own blessing? If we said that it's one long bracha of Al Divrei Torah and Va'ad, and it's one long bracha, then this is the bracha of Smucha L'Chaverta, the long bracha. Right? According to the first opinion, they said if the first bracha is a long bracha, then the second bracha need not start with a baruch. So if they're of the opinion that B'harev, all the B'Seder and B'Harav is one long bracha, then Asher Bracha Banu shouldn't begin with a baruch. L'chayra, right?
So what would it
That question, I don't know.
What would it begin with? If you didn't begin with?
Maybe,
We begin with Asher Bachar Ban.
Tifchar, after B'Chartono, Mikol Ha'amim, after,
Asher Bachar Ban.
yeah, something, maybe, not there, no vav, it's not connected. So why then, so now, V'chein Nogu, sorry, Matam Zapatach is Berachas Asher Baruch Abanim Bebarach, if you should Berachas on Torah, it's about Mevarach Eisim B'fnei Atzma, right? Because by the Torah we read it alone. V'chein Nogu L'Marav V'Loi Vav, the Alter Rebbe says that's why we're knowing to say there are those that are accustomed not to say Harav with the Vav, separately because it's a separate bracha. It is Bracha Asmuch L'Chaber. Aval Yoser Tov L'Emr B'Vav. So the Alter Rebbe says, but it's better to say it with a vav. I love it, right? It's amazing. The whole drama is on the vav. Where's my coffee already? No, it's a vav. It's not a vav. There's a lot going on over here. There's a lot of investment in the vav. Aval Yosef Lemmer bevav. Better to say it with the vav. If you say imi bracha b'fnei atzma, v'meres b'tepus vav, and you got gloma. Imi bracha atzma, meres b'tepus vav, hanei zeh mafsik b'emtzim bracha. Right? So the Alter Rebbe is like, the Alter Rebbe is leaning to the second opinion. He doesn't lean. He's like, this is the second opinion is correct. No. But he says, still do it with a vav. He says, why? Because you're going to win. You win. Either way you win. Why? Because if it's its own bracha, then fine, you start it with a vav. And you do that, it's not a problem. But if you're doing it, but if it is the same bracha, and you're not doing a vav, so the Alter Rebbe says you're actually creating a little bit of a hefsek over here between the beginning of the bracha and the end of the bracha. Alter Rebbe said, "Harev no, harev." It just shows you the deal. If something is a vav, you don't have the vav, it's a hefsek. I thought a hefsek is talking, whatever. See, taking my mind somewhere else. No, Alter Rebbe is saying, just the fact that you don't put a vav in is some sort of hefsek. I don't know if it's a hefsek that, if somebody, I don't know to what degree it's a hefsek. If someone's not yotzed a bracha, if they're a mafsek. It's clearly not on that severity, but it's still a hefsek. You're saying a bracha. You're talking about one thing, and all of a sudden you understand? We can give an example. If you're talking to somebody, you're talking in a proper manner. There's a certain way of doing it. If you're still in one point, then you're going to probably, an end is a very important thing that they understand that we're still in the same Indian, as opposed to, okay, are we on something? Did we move on to the next thing? Right? This is classic, and certainly in like high quality communication. Imagine a Rebbe, how a Rebbe he communicates either verbally or in a letter. You could be medayik on these things a lot. We know this actually. The Alter Rebbe spent 3 weeks. 3 weeks on what? On the vav of a v'chulu. Should a chulu, I think, if the v'chulu should be vav, v'chulu, or chulu. V'chulu or chulu. And this week in the Sikha, there's a Sikha of the Rebbe where the Rebbe asks the question, Yaakov Avinu left Peniel and Penuel, and then he says he was in Peniel. He called the place Peniel because he saw God face to face. And then he says, and then he left and he passed through Penuel. And the Rebbe says, what's going on over here? Peniel, which one is it? It's a Yud, it's a Vav. Changes everything. It's similar, it's like subtle, but it's really, there's a lot being changed. And the Rebbe explains. But if it's one bracha and you say it without a vav, it's a bracha, you're stopping in the middle. It's one bracha. Right there. And then the Rebbe, Alter Rebbe puts it. So too, based on the Soid, the secrets of Torah. He bracha b'fnei atzma. It's its own bracha. V'yesh la'an is amen be'entayim. According to Jewish mysticism, the esoteric part of Torah, it is its own bracha, and you answer amen after it. So it says after al divrei Yisrael, amen. However, v'afa began yishlam v'arad b'vav. Nevertheless, one still says it with the vav. So that already is opening up a little bit of like a little, it's like an iceberg, you know. You see a little tip at the end, but if you go and look in there, Mem Gimel, Hanib Sefer Kavanas, Shar Kavanas, Inyan Nusach Hatzvila, Pri Etz Chaim, Shar Brachas, Perek Zayin, Magin Pav, the Magin Pav brings it, Bar Hektev. But, yeah, in the Sefer Kavanas, in the Pri Etz Chaim, if you want to investigate it further. Where's Hashem? Okay, then at the end of the Siman, the Alter Rebbe goes into the continuation is if somebody said Birchas Abba Rabba, Yavas if they said that bracha, they woke up, Kriya Shema, they didn't have any time, they're like, wow, let's quickly, Zman Kriya Shema is in a couple of minutes, let me say Abba, let me just do the two brachas of Kriya Shema and say Kriya Shema Bizman. And then, now what? So the halacha brings it that they actually, b'diavad, they did the Birchas Torah, so they don't go back and do Birchas Torah. That's discussed further. But what time is it? 40. So now we're going to go on to the Chanukah. We have a few weeks until Chanukah. Next week is going to be this Kislev. We'll see. Sure, everybody's going to be bringing all night long, so we'll see much time of a class. There's no reason.
I don't want to get off before we start on that, but when we were talking about Bracha Chanukah Rechavia, sleep near the top by Sheva Bracha. So,
Yeah.
and I'm like, wait, so which NACHLAOT? I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess you'd say, look, Sheva Brachas. Yeah. So Sheva Brachas, if you're saying that they always come in the same set,
Right.
then they should start. No, then they should start without a, which we do actually.
Right.
So it's tosses right? We do have one that does not. The question is maybe according to you is why Asha, right? We have a few that are and a few that aren't.
So start these soon.
So so the question is maybe. Very interesting thing to ask. I would ask.
I could understand it's a whole another.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a new. Maybe you could say that it doesn't need not to start with the baruch. Maybe it can start with the baruch.
Right. Okay.
But it doesn't also need to, because it's always in a set. Be interesting to see. According to the first opinion, that it follows would be like a problem. You say, hey, what's going on over here? Why isn't it start with the bottom? Interesting. Sure, there's a lot on it. It's one of the,
like I said, it's a whole.
All right, we're gonna do. I don't know. Have you guys ever learned the beginning of the base about Chanukah? The beginning of Chanukah. There's a nice basis if he asked a few questions about Chanukah. A few general questions. Let's go through it. It's very geschmack. And we'll maybe next week we'll go into God willing another topic of Chanukah. Okay. So let's do the tour. Let's do the tour. In Chanukah we do not have Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. We just have the tour of Beit Yosef. The debate is if the Alter Rebbe actually had Simanim on Chanukah, which I believe he did. But I thought the Alter Rebbe had the whole thing, the whole entire Shulchan Aruch, but it was burnt. So a lot of it was burnt. And then somewhere I heard is that no, the Alter Rebbe didn't necessarily write on the whole Shulchan Aruch. So I'm not sure about that. It's probably an easy Google. But
he said it was burned?
It was burnt, yeah. Definitely part of it. There was a big fire in Russia, and that so much of Torah has been lost from a lot of Chabad Rebbeim. There was a big fire, and big fires. It's like if you're into Chabad history, you'll know. Like there was that year's fire, and like Pasha, they destroyed. Unbelievable loss. And Bechlal, not only in Chabad. I'm sure this is like, there's just been a lot that's been lost along the way. Mitzvah Hashem, it'll return. My Chanukah, Hilchos Chanukah, Simin Tuf, Reshayin, the Torah. My Chanukah, what is Chanukah? The time I'm bringing from the Bracha said, "Mechafed b'Kislev on the 25th of Kislev, Yom Chanukah, Tamanya Inu." And there's 8 days of Chanukah. The Lo L'Mispad B'Hay, not to do any hesped, not to eulogize anybody. We Lo L'Migzav B'Hay, Tani said, and we do not do any kindness. We're not going to kindness al Tzibur. Shekinishnas Yevanim Be'Hezlo. When the Yevanim came into the Hezlo of the Beis Hamikdash, Tibul Kol Shemanim, they pure defiled all the oil. Which Be'Hezlo. Shegavri Yad Malchus Be'Ez Hashem Anoi. And when they overpower the hand of the Chashmonaim overpowered, when they beat them, but they checked, they couldn't find a pach echad. Shoshem, they could only find one flask, one jar of oil, which was sealed with the seal of the Kohen Gadol. It was only enough for one day. And it lived for 8 days. And the next year, they assumed they established it. Another nusach is they had made it. Shmoydet Yomim Tovim. They made it 8 days. V'halal, with halal, v'adah, and Thanksgiving. Pirush. What does it mean that they made it days for halal and v'adah? It means lamer to then halal. To say halal v'lohid is lamer by alanisim. And to give thanks is to say alanisim v'adah in the bracha of v'adah in Shemona Esrei. When we're talking about says malacha, you're allowed to do malacha. But now you said nashim shalom last malacha. Women are knowing not to do malacha, but while the women are not, while the candles are burning, and the Torah says, don't go easy on them. Like, it's important. Okay, that's a different topic about Yisroel malacha for women. It goes into the Rosh Chodesh category. It's actually a great. I mean, it's an important sugya. It's interesting. Like, whoa. What does it mean they can't do malacha? What type of malacha? How long is it light? Is it the time that you're supposed to light it? Is it afterwards? Is it the whole night? Like what can they do? How do I bring it up to my wife? So maybe you guys could help me. Okay, so
Wait, so is there a machloket as to what verb they used? The kavu shmoris?
yeah, it's a machlokes. I guess it's different nuschot.
What's the second one? For one's kavu and
Kavum is they establish it. They assume they made it. Okay, that's a good. That's a deal. Now here comes the Beis Yosef. This is like Geshmak Beis Yosef. They're all Geshmak. This one's also. Tavrishai. My Chanukah the Tanya b'Chafei b'Kislev. He asks. The Perek B'Mem Adlikin. This he first sources what where the Torah is bringing from. He says this is in the second chapter of Shabbos. V'Ikla made that. Says the Beis Yosef. Ki Chasen b'Chesem Shel Kohen Gadol Ma'aveh. Says, what did it matter to the Yevanim, to the Kohanim in that time that it was sealed with the seal of the Kohen Gadol? What does it help? What does it make? Why does that ensure? Why does that confirm that it was pure olive oil? So the Beis Yosef says, it's true that even if they touched, let's say they touched it on the outside, it would not become impure. Meaning, jug, sealed. But Yevani comes, they don't know what happened before. They just found it. They know it wasn't open. The guy touches it. Fine. He touches it. Kli cheres is not metameh migaboy. Cannot metameh. You can't be metameh a kli cheres from the outside. Only from the inside. Sealed, good. For that, fine. Done, good. However, let me tell you. Maybe they did hesed. Tumas hesed is like, it's about masa. There's touching, contracting. When you contract something, but if you hesed is like this. If I do that, then even a kli cheres, what's inside of it becomes tough. Hesed. Right? Hesed is like masa. It's like literally like shaking the table. That's hesed. And in that case, then the oil, even if it was sealed, still tummy. Okay? So, the basis is just kvartir to Tosfos. Tosfos already dealt with this. Okay? And he says, Im kvar gozo al yevanim liyuz kizavim. So first of all, the question is, B'chlal, who was impure? A guy. Let's get it. That's just how it. The one that you're seeing, so inside. Right? I think it's a stay switch. If not, then we'll just let it be. This is Sham Dibra Maskal Shahaya. Okay. Shayamuna B'chazim Zogan Gadol. And Tesla says, okay, so the Tesla says there's two options over here. Number one, Goyim are not, we know that they're like Shvulachem Pa'im HaChamor. Halachically, it's considered like an animal. Animals cannot contract purity. Right? Only the Chachamim were Goyzer that they should be like Zavim. He said, a Goy is like a Zav. So anything that, you know what a Zav is? A Zav is a man that had a male discharge in those days. We don't have it nowadays. It's not semen. And the man, that is a Zav. There's a whole bunch of halachas. What does a Zav do with it? So one sighting, two sighting, three sighting in a row, they bring a carbon, 7 days. The Chachamim were guys are on a guy that they are like Zav, even though they're really not. So the first way answer, Tosfos says, doesn't even say it. And if you're going to say, maybe it was before this, maybe before it was before, you have to say, it was after they were Zavim, and a Zav Dirabanan. It's interesting because then that means that the whole nature of the impurity, even on the other ones, was Dirabanan, was rabbinic, which is interesting. I don't know. Let's not even go there. Okay, let's close the box. What Tosfos says that they were a Zav. He was already the Exera, and a Zav is by Hesed could impart ritual impurity to the jug of oil. So why does it help that it was sealed? Tosfos says, right? Tosfos says that it was deep in the ground. Like they found it. The chosim was chosim, of course, but they also found it and they realized it wasn't touched. It wasn't even meddled with. Rashi also seems to say that. He writes, he says, Batsnea. He says it was in hiding. It was sealed, but also in hiding. And it was sealed with a tabat, a ring. The hikir, and they recognized Shaloi Nagboy, that nobody touched it. That's the way that we're answering this obvious question of, hey, what does the chaysim help? Chaysim helps, and also it was hidden. It was clear that it wasn't tampered with. The Ran writes a different logic. He just says, doesn't emphasize and say that it was in hiding. He just says that it was something that had the Kohen Gadol's sign on it. So if they would have seen it, they would have thought maybe there's diamonds, it's pearls and stuff inside. And the fact that they didn't the fact that the seal was there, that indicates that that nobody even got near it, right? Which again, and the basis of this, maybe that also is what Rashi is implying when he says there was no when he said they recognized that it wasn't tampered with. Also, this was another way to deduce that it wasn't tampered with. It's just the Ran's lashon is better because according to the answer of Tosfos, that it was in the karka. So you're saying like, why are they saying it's such a big deal? It was b'chosim shel kohen gadol. That's of course that's what happened, but that's not like isn't that chosim gadol? No, it was hidden, and it was more. You could say it was discernible that nobody touched it. The Ran's saying is like, no, it's all about the chosim of the kohen gadol. The fact that it had a chosim of the kohen gadol on it is what it's all about, because otherwise. And that and vis-a-vis, it also addresses what Taisa is saying, but how do they know that there was no hesed? Because it also proves that nobody got close to it. Otherwise, that's the first general question of the basis brings on Chanukah. Time for more. Now, why do they need to light for 8 days from that path? Why?
8 days.
Yeah, why do they need 8 days? Why do they need 8 days to get new oil? The Gemara just says that they needed in the lit for 8 days. The Beisis was addressing the question, why? Why do they need 8 days? What was the issue? So we already know a bit about it, but even that, like, why? Why do they have to wait 8 days? Must be.
You're asking me?
Yeah. We'll go to the shop, get no pure oil and all of it. Like what happened? What was the situation? What was the matzav? Heichi dami, like the Gemara says. What's going on over here? Fact. What were the facts on the ground? So the Beisis brings two options. Number one, every single yid was the cheskes Tmei Mason. Who's like the Menard?
Kohen Gadol lights them down.
Huh?
Kohen Gadol lights them down.
Then God was a chashmonai. For sure was a Talmud.
Were they allowed to?
Who actually found it? If everybody was a Tmei Mason, and who actually found it? There had to be one person that wasn't, because he handled the actual job. Okay, it says that most of the, say, majority of the Yidden were Tmei Mason, because to produce oil all around, all the oil that was current was ready. According to this answer, everybody was Tmei Mason, but Tmei Mason needs 7 days. And then 1 day to squeeze the olive oil. That's one. So they needed 7 days. So that means the oil came from Yerushalayim. But they needed 7 days for people to purify themselves, and then they could squeeze in the second day. But it just made. I'm saying, I come back there, but there had to be one person.
Maybe the Kohen Gadol is not the Cheskes Tmei Mason because he doesn't go out. The Kohen Shuach Milchama goes out. Maybe.
But in those days, the Chashmonaim was who were the Chashmonaim?
They were all Kohanim.
They were the Kohanim. Who found the? I mean, it was the Chashmonaim. These people. Maybe there was one. Maybe they found that there was maybe that's the whole thing with the kid. They said the kid. There's a kid. The movie, the video Lights. Beautiful Chabad video from like 50 years ago about Chanukah. Anyway, check it. It's on YouTube. It's cute. Good Chanukah entertainment. So it's a sweet film. So anyway, the kid finds it. Kid finds it, and he brings it. Maybe they did. The kid did it or something. I don't know. But there was nobody to press oil, because otherwise you're like, what do you mean? Just get a few grapes. Sure, they had grapes and stock, olives and stock. Press them. That's it. Get it done. You beat the Greeks. You can squeeze. You can press some olives.
I have a more interesting question. Everybody's Cheskes Tmei Mason, so isn't there like a din like by?
Well, that's one of the biggest things that they didn't have need to rely on that, because I'm sure they could. Yeah. Okay, v'tikunim ha'yitzim hem Shem and Torah. V'aran Kosov, the Ran, again, writes, Shaya v'hem Shem and Torah, rachik arba yomim. If they had pure oil, it was 4 days away. So they took 4 days to get there, 4 days to bring it back. So this is money on middle, this is about. Okay. Also, it's interesting. I appreciate like this is like what happened on the ground, what was the situation, and you can like, wow, this is a good thing for you. And they're like, well, what's that? Well, 4 days, 1 minute. It says that Lud had a lot of oil, and that was like, olive groves all over Israel. Like 4 days, where is it so hard to go in Israel? 4 days then. But I'm sure that Ron would appreciate it if you'd actually investigate it further, not say, oh, the Ron said. Think about it, because he for sure thought about it. Vika lemedek. Final question. Final investigation of this segment. Lemedek. Lama kavu shmeinas yamim. Why is the nest 8 days? The kimin shemen shebapach v'kedei la'adik leila achas. It was enough for 1 day. There's only 7 days of nest. Why do we have 8 days of Hanukkah? Any answers?
Near Lemay, there are 100 answers to this question. Literally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My son's like, oh, we have to, in school is a project. He wrote down 70 answers. He asked ChatGPT.
1 year.
His teacher said, yeah.
He
Came up with that. What's the, anyone want to suggest anything before?
So some say what they call it, they poured it and it stayed in and some say they poured it all in and just burned 1/8 every day.
Yeah.
Let me think. The first day was for the nays of the Milchama and the rest of
You almost covered all the ones that the best answer will bring. But anybody else? It's 100 answers. The question was 100.
Not quick.
Why would we have 8 days of Hanukkah if there was enough oil for 1 day? So it should be only 7 days of miracle. It's 1 day they had.
One year in Yeshiva, we had a thing where, what do they call it, Rosh Yeshiva would come down during lighting time. And we were dancing around and singing Noah's Torah. And then somebody would yell, NACHLAOT terrorists, and you had to give them.
Yeah.
Next week, maybe, I read something,
Yeah.
so I can't bring it back.
Yeah. So what's your first name? Reuven is suggesting that there's like the whole world is coming up with answers to this question. It's like, oh, that the fact that oil exists is a miracle. Like there's so many answers. Okay, well I'm going to do it quickly. First answer, every night they took the first jug and they made it into eighths. And so you put it in an eighth and it lasted the whole night. That's a miracle. So even on the first night, 1/8 of the amount lasted the whole night. So it's already a miracle. Like Elisha's oil flask. Like the oil flask from Elisha, they poured in, and the jug still was full. That's on the first night, right? Another answer. Inami, Shabulo Risha Nosnu Kol Shemen.
Are they all correct?
Possibilities. Inami, Shabulo Risha Nosnu Kol Shemen Benedes Bedok Kol Alad Leverko Matzu Anedes Maleim Shemen Bechen Bechol Laila 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 Bechen Bechol Laila Laila.
What was that?
Inami, Shabulo Risha Nosnu Kol Shemen Benedes Bedok Kol Alad Leverko Matzu Anedes Maleim Shemen Bechen Bechol Laila Laila. Is that they put the last one is that they filled up the oil all the way, and what happened? They came in the morning, and it was full. So the first answer is that it ate lit the first day. The second answer is that the jug remained full afterwards, and the third is that in the morning, the thing was still full. And then I think also that Nitzvah from Mulchama, but the basis is to bring Nitzvah from Mulchama, Nitzvah from Mulchama, and that'll be all for today. We'll continue. To be continued.